All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good news is the bar opens at 5, so I'm only like one or two people between you and a nice cold beverage at the end of the day. Well, I thank you all for kind of staying here. As you heard, my name's Joe. I'm the CEO of FreeSpira, and we're the only at-home treatment for anxiety disorders such as panic disorder and PTSD. So let's talk about why this is such an important marketplace. 39 million adults suffer from panic attacks and PTSD in the United States currently. Right now, we look at our total addressable market as 18 million. That's the actual number of individuals that are actually diagnosed with either panic or PTSD. And our target market's 14 million because we believe that that's the number of patients, roughly 80% of them, that actually suffer from the underlying physiological cause, which we will address as our main point of action. This equates to an $18 billion market opportunity for FreeSpira. So let's talk about the importance of this. If you look at the economic burden of panic and PTSD, it now ranks higher than both substance use disorder associated with illicit drugs and depression. And the reason we compare that to them is because they're the two most highly profiled mental health disorders in the country that we're trying to solve for now. What it does is it creates an overshadowing effect on a lot of the anxiety disorders such as panic and PTSD. In fact, PTSD is growing so rapidly that in the next 5 years, the government attributes that the largest population of PTSD patients will not be veterans and military individuals, but rather general civilians. And if you look here, they now separate out the annual costs. So for a civilian, the annual cost associated with treating PTSD is $18,640. For veterans, it's over $25,000. But let's put it in better context. 14% of teens and adults in the US are suffering with panic or PTSD. So to contextualize that for you, when you compare that to depression, which is one of the most focal mental health disorders out there, roughly 7 to 10% of the population is currently diagnosed with depression or suffers with depressive symptoms. When you compare it to a chronic condition like diabetes, 10.5% of the population has diabetes. So the reason I put that in that framework for you is to understand that this is already a large population that's suffering through these unfortunate disorders, and it's one of the fastest growing segments within healthcare in the United States now. What is FreeSpira? Well, we are a single course therapy that's treating the patient at home over the course of 28 days. We're the first non-medication treatment to address the underlying cause of panic and PTSD, which is breathing dysfunction associated with CO2 hypersensitivity. If you look at the picture here, this is what we're shipping to the patient directly to their home. It's an off-the-shelf tablet with our proprietary algorithm in it. The white device that you see there with the FreeSpira logo is the sensor that is wirelessly connected to the tablet, and the patient wears that nasal cannula that's attached to it. We're grabbing breath-by-breath measurements of the patient, and we're going to transpose onto that tablet respiration rate and exhaled CO2 rates. During the course of the 28 days, the patient's going to go through the session where it monitors their breathing via the algorithm and then gives them audio cues to breathe, to inhale and exhale accordingly so that they can begin to manage that CO2 differential better. What we're doing is training these patients to stabilize their exhaled CO2, to stabilize their breathing so that they can manage that exhaled CO2 better, and this will allow them to avoid having the symptoms of panic and PTSD in the future. We've been methodical in our approach in the sense of making sure that we can prove out our model. We've made necessary refinements, and we believe we're at a state now where we have a foundation that we can really accelerate from. We now have 5 contracts in play between commercial, Medicaid, and the government sector. We've got 17 million member lives under contract, and we're looking for an investment to be able to accelerate our commercial strategy. We have a very unique patient journey. It's 4 steps, and the first is critically important. It's the accurate identification of patients. There's a large volume of patients that are undiagnosed with both of these disorders in the country. We work very closely with our payer partners in getting claims data sets from them and working with them in identifying these necessary patients. The second step is actually activating and engaging these patients. We do direct outreach to their members and providers with co-branded marketing materials announcing both the payer and FreeSpira collectively together. We actually then engage the patients directly through multiple different marketing channels, get them to enroll in the program. We then ship the device directly to their home. We pair them with a dedicated care coach that will help guide them through the full 28-day treatment. And then at the end of the 28 days, they put the device back in the box and ship it back to FreeSphere where we can refurbish it and utilize it again. That is an incredible impact on our overall gross margins. We bill the payer immediately upon shipping a single invoice case rate price using HCPCS code A9291. And then quarterly, we have business meetings with the payers where we're sharing with them the aggregate clinical and economic savings that they can achieve within their members. All of this leads to an incredible adherence profile where 75% of patients are adherent to the protocol over the 28 days. One important clinical trial we did with a Blue Cross Blue Shield partner in Pennsylvania, they measured long-term clinical outcomes as well as cost reductions. And you can see here, at the end of the treatment, 86% of patients were qualified as panic attack free. 12 months later, not having any additional FreeSphere interaction, those same patients were still, 73% of those patients were still qualified as panic attack free. But more importantly, what we saw was a 35% medical reduction in total costs, and we saw 65% reduction in emergency department costs. That's hard dollar savings back to the payer. So why do you want to invest in FreeSphere? We've got three key components of the market kind of figured out already. The first is the patient engagement and services piece. It's critical to the success of any at-home technology. Accurate identification of patients is the first component, but getting the patients to engage is critically important. We've demonstrated a 47% patient engagement rate. Within the first year, we're able to convert 15% of the total target patient population and enroll them as acquired patients into the FreeSphere program. We believe that direct relationship, start to finish with the patients, is what actually leads to our high overall adherence rate of greater than 70%. Most importantly, for the patient, we're providing them a different pathway to achieve treatment, where they can actually access a new treatment modality without having to visit the clinician's office on a routine basis. The second piece is pricing, invoicing, and distribution. We are the only digital therapeutic that we're aware of that's credentialed, HQAA credentialed by CMS to invoice and distribute our product directly to the patients. We don't need to work with third-party distributors and pay them high fees to actually manage that process for us. We've also offering value-based purchasing programs to our client partners where patients that do not meet clinical criteria, they'll get a rebate back so that they pay $0 for those patients. That's how confident we are in our product and our clinical outcomes. And this also gives us incredible flexibility to operate within the framework of the payer. We can be covered as a medical benefit under traditional policy, or we can actually be processed through the digital pharmacy if that's the route they want to go. And lastly, we're a leader in the marketplace because we've gained adoption across multiple different marketplaces. We've now proven our model in the commercial sector, the Medicaid, managed Medicaid population, and the VA and the government sector. We've also demonstrated to our payer partners that we can successfully integrate in their ecosystem and be flexible in that process as well. And lastly, and most importantly, we can be consistent in terms of our clinical outcomes and cost savings across any line of business. We've raised $48 million year to date to invest in achieving significant clinical milestones, commercial scalability, patient operations, and data analytics. We're looking for a $15 million funding round to drive our commercial growth, which will include expanding our commercial strategy, significant investment in marketing functions, accelerate our revenue, and achieve break-even in less than 18 months. We're surrounded by an incredible executive team that's got greater than 30 years experience in each of their given functions, with several of us actually having successfully exited many different companies. If you'd like to learn more about FreeSphere and partner with us on this incredible journey of changing the face of mental health, please find me afterwards. My phone number and my email are here. Thank you all.